So right now, I want to welcome James Scongack. He's the Chief Operating Officer and Executive Vice President from Bruce Power. He is going to give us more on those subjects. Over to you, James.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for having me. And the first thing I want to say to kick things off today is, I know we have, I understand from Sean that we have Canada's Prime Minister here later today. And I just wanted to give everybody just a big thank you and congratulations on yesterday's announcement from the Government of Canada on the expansion of training funds across Canada. So I think we should give the Government of Canada a round of applause on that, but also you for making that happen. So I know you're hearing from a lot of speakers today. I have some slides I want to share, but there's really a few key elements that I really want to leave with everybody here in the room. And maybe while we're on the topic of the Prime Minister coming later today, I see many familiar faces here in the room. I'm really proud to represent one of the world's largest operating nuclear facilities. About a third of Ontario's power. We're the world's largest supplier of life-saving medical isotopes, and actually Canada's largest private sector funded infrastructure project. And we have an opportunity on the Bruce site to continue to provide that role for generations to come. We are focused on a renewal of our facilities currently on our 8 units, but we're also advancing plans in the pre-development phase for the construction of more large new nuclear units at the Bruce site. And while today I'm going to cover a number of elements of what we have at Bruce Power, I think one of the most important things that I can say to you as a fellow leader in the electricity sector, because everything we do on the site we do in partnership with the building trades. We couldn't do any of the work that we do on site without the building trades. But to keep in mind, regardless of any success that we talk about, the most important success that we have on our site every single day is that every single worker that works on our site, and today we have 10,000 men and women both operating, maintaining, carrying out construction on our site. Our most important obligation is to make sure that every single one of those men and women go home after a safe day of work. There's no other metric that is more important than making sure we protect people. And I want to thank the building trades for your partnership on that front. And when I talk about partnership, sometimes I get questions about, at Bruce Power or as part of your future plans, what are your plans with respect to building trade labor? And I always say that our partnership with all 16 building trades in Ontario, it is a strategic advantage for us. It's a strategic advantage in terms of driving safety performance. It's a strategic advantage in terms of long-term planning. And we will always use labor from our 16 building trades in Ontario because we believe it is a competitive advantage to everything that we do as an organization. So thank you for that. We launched something earlier this year called Canadian at Our Core. It's not lost on anybody in the room that I think this is a time in Canada's history where we are all reflecting on what it means to be Canadian, what we need to do, all of us as whether it's organizationally or individually, to contribute to some of the challenges that Canada has. And so we launched a Canadian at Our Core campaign. And really what the Canadian at Our Core campaign is really consists of 5 key pillars. I'm not going to go through them all today, but it's at its core a commitment that we're gonna buy local, we're gonna develop locally, we're gonna have strong, meaningful partnerships with First Nations communities, and we are committed to spending 95 cents of every dollar we spend on our site in Canada. It's great that we, for the first time in a long time, are talking about historic infrastructure investments. But what's really important for all of us is to make sure that that money stays in Canada, that it recycles its way through the economy and creates opportunities for whether it's small, medium, large-size business across Ontario and across Canada. So we're doing our part with our 95% commitment. And I think that as we're looking at renewing infrastructure for the long term, we need to look at those areas that historically we may have been dependent on other countries to provide, and really by aggregating all of the work we're doing, challenge ourselves as to how do we bring that back to Canada. One of the other key elements that you'll see related to our Canadian at our Core campaign is we will continue to be a world leader in the production of life-saving medical isotopes. Minister O'Regan will remember this from when he was NRCan minister. I think when we first started talking to him about medical isotopes, it was at a time where not a lot of people were talking about it, but he was. Canada is a world leader in the production of life-saving medical isotopes. If you think about modern healthcare in the world today, whether it's when you go to a hospital or a doctor's office and you are confident that the medical equipment and the devices that are used are sterile to keep you safe, that is all sterilized using cobalt-60 from our reactors here in Canada. 70% of the world's sterilization comes from Canada. If it's in the diagnosis of cancer, the treatment of cancer, when we turn on a light switch in the room, we expect the lights to go on through a form of energy that we all know called electricity. When it comes to healthcare, medical isotopes are the form of energy used to diagnose and to treat cancer. And our site is the world's largest producer of those life-saving medical isotopes. The sad reality is that 40% of people in this room will get cancer in your life, 40%. But 100% of us in this room will be impacted by cancer, whether it's ourselves, our loved ones, our colleagues, people in our community. And when it comes to the modern fight against cancer, the world counts on Canada for those life-saving medical isotopes. So when you reflect what your members are doing on our site every day, they're not only safely renewing infrastructure and ensuring we have energy supply, but they are leading the world fight against cancer. So I hope when you're engaging with your members and talking to them about the important work that they do, it's not just about electricity, it's not just about infrastructure. They are helping the world and Canada lead the world in the fight against cancer. So thank you to your members for their leadership in making that difference. I want to talk about project success. So one of the things that is most important to us when we're looking at either renewing our assets or constructing large new nuclear is what are the key ingredients that will set those projects up for success. We're at a time where there is a tremendous amount of policy support. You saw with the Prime Minister's announcement on Monday in terms of a sovereign wealth fund for Canada. You've seen great leadership. I think you're going to be hearing from Minister Piccini earlier. Amazing leadership from the Ford government, from Minister Lecce, Minister Piccini. There is a real environment to invest in large-scale infrastructure projects, and nuclear in particular. What's so important is when we're given that opportunity that we deliver. And when we talk about delivering project success at Bruce Power, we always talk about it in 4 key areas. And they're not items that all happen in parallel. They're 4 items that happen in a sequence from most important. And if you do the most important things first, all of the other things follow. And when we're talking about project success, we always talk about safety first. Your members, the people working on our site, while they are carrying out absolutely amazing critical work, we have to recognize that setting those workers up for success every day to have a safe day of work is the core priority for any project. And by doing that, we set the right standard for the entire job. After safety comes quality. We want work done right the first time. We want to set workers up for success with high quality materials and parts and training that have arrived. And if we do things right the first time, that leads us to strong schedule performance. Because if we're safe and we're at high quality, we're on plan. And when we do things on plan, preceded by safety and quality, what outcome do we get? We get good economic outcomes. And so this is a theme and this is a secret sauce that Bruce Power continues to aspire to. I'm not going to suggest for one moment that we, like any organization, don't have areas that we need to continue to improve and build on, but this is our secret sauce to success. Safety, quality, building a schedule that workers can be successful with, and when you do that, you get the financial metrics and the cost predictability. I talked earlier about the importance of 95 cents of every dollar being spent here in Canada, and this is just a reminder to us that when we spend locally, when we invest in local workers, and we invest in domestic infrastructure, what it can mean for Ontario and Canada. And in the case of Bruce Power, just in our base operations before we look at construction, 22,000 jobs are supported across Ontario as a result of that work and that 95% commitment to investing in Canada. And that is augmented then by the 5,000 direct jobs that we have underway from a construction perspective on the site. You know, if we had spoken at this conference a couple of years ago, I don't think we would have the same level of focus on energy security and national security that we have now. And what I often say is you can't have national security without energy security. You can't have economic predictability without energy security. And the top issue for Canadians across Canada is you can't have affordability without energy security. If we learned anything from the geopolitical events over the last number of years, whether it's what we're seeing now in the Middle East or what we saw in Russia's invasion of Ukraine, it's that energy markets around the world can really disrupt what we do here in Canada and can impact affordability also for consumers. And so that's why investing in made in Canada energy, like nuclear power, can not only have the kind of economic impacts that we're talking about here, but can lead to energy security. I really want to close on a couple of thoughts. If there's one theme in today's presentation I could leave you with, it's that we're in the people business. Oftentimes when you think of nuclear power, you think of a highly complex technical organization, and it is that. But at the end of the day, our ability to operate this amazing technology, to life extend it through historic investments, or to build new nuclear, it is really all premised and based on the amazing people that we can bring together to do that work. We are not in a technical business at Bruce Power. We are in a people business. And it's our job to bring together the best people to tackle these challenges and advance these opportunities. And so, you know, you see some of the faces there on the slides. You know from your locals, the people that are working at Bruce, you can go in the plant. It's the people that make this happen every day. So, you know, I have an immense pleasure and honor to talk about the successes of the Bruce Power site, but it's really their successes that I'm able to talk about, and your successes that you've set them up for that opportunity and what we're doing together. The final item I want to leave everybody with, it's a bit of you know, Sean Strickland taught me this years ago, and he's still guilty of it all the time, is you never leave without an ask. And so I do have one ask of everybody in the room, but it starts with a thank you. About a year and a half, 2 years ago, the Government of Canada was focused on implementing investment tax credits, and it was in response to what we saw from the Biden administration around the Inflation Reduction Act in the U.S. And the implementation of investment tax credits across Canada were a very important tool for Canada to respond to this environment that we were seeing developed in the United States. Initially, when those investment tax credits were contemplated, they did not apply to nuclear. And if you look at where we are today, we've structured a regime in Canada where investment tax credits apply to nuclear. But not only do they apply to nuclear, the benefit of those investment tax credits flow to the ratepayers in the respective jurisdiction. So the investment tax credits, for example, that apply to our $18 billion investment program, they go to the benefit of ratepayers. But it was very important from a competitiveness perspective. The building trades were the first to the table. I know Minister O'Regan, is very humble, but he was also one of our big advocates of this when he was in the Government of Canada. But thanks to all of the work of people in this room, investment tax credits came to the top of the list and are now included when it comes to nuclear power in Canada. So if we look at, absolutely. And I can tell you, it would not have happened without the building trades. So my ask of you is this, one of the things I've learned over the years of working with a lot of elected officials is every day they get 20 things they're asked to do from stakeholders, from organizations. They're get 1 million asks a day. One of the things we forget to do is when they deliver on something big and transformational, sometimes we forget to say thank you. Sometimes we forget to acknowledge that and take a minute and talk about why it's important. So my ask of you is this, is that when the Prime Minister of Canada comes here today to thank him and his government for the inclusion of investment tax credits with nuclear power, because that has been transformational for our sector in Canada and in Ontario. So that's my ask, Sean. I hope you'll consider it. Add it to the list of all the other things you want to say to the Prime Minister. But truly, thank you for everything you do. Thank you for your focus on safety. Thank you for your focus on quality. Thank you for working with us to bring the best capabilities from 16 building trades across Ontario to our site. Thank you for being there when no one else was with investment tax credits. And thank you for your continued partnership. Have a great afternoon.